Charlie Dickens, Chapter 74, entitled Hand of Fate. It was then that a muscular hand reached out to him, and he had no choice but to grab it. This is it, he thought. I'll be tarred and feathered now, but it wasn't a golfer, it was Bob. Charlie was shocked. Funny seeing you here, said Bob, and he grinned his lopsided grin and showed off his yellow cracked teeth. Charlie wasn't sure who to worry about the most, but he knew that he had no choice but to follow Bob as the golfers were now crashing through the woods like startled deer. Charlie imagined what they would do to him and how angry they would be. After all, he had spoiled their beloved game. Then he remembered that it wasn't his fault at all, and his thoughts returned to Tinker. For the first time, he was angry at him for all of the trouble he had caused. All Charlie had wanted was a nice walk in the woods, and what he had ended up with was all of this drama, and now it looked like it was going to get even worse. Bob led Charlie to the safety of his caravan, but Charlie didn't feel particularly safe. He was wary of Bob. He didn't think he was dangerous, but he thought that he was strange. As soon as they got into the caravan, Bob put the kettle on, and Charlie sat on an old battered sofa. It was strewn with newspapers, but there were no comics inside, which wasn't surprising. Charlie removed a tea bag from beneath him, and he surveyed the clutter around him, amazed. And it was like a museum for rubbish, he thought. There was a small black and white TV in the corner, with a bottle of beer balancing precariously on top of it. There was a once white rug beneath his feet, which was going brown, with dirty footprints. The walls were plastered with old newspaper photographs of horses and busty women. This didn't surprise Charlie. The floor, the floor was littered with slips of paper which looked like receipts, but Bob didn't look like the kind of person who liked buying things. Scrounging or stealing, more like, thought Charlie. How many sugars? Said Bob loudly, making Charlie jump. One, thanks, he said, and Bob brought the drinks in on a very dirty tray. Charlie drank his tea nervously, and he struggled to make eye contact with Bob. Bob sensed this. Don't worry, son, I ain't going to hurt you, he said, and he ruffled Charlie's hair protectively. Charlie relaxed a little. Now then, what have you done to make them golfers go mad and chase you halfway into the woods? Charlie felt ashamed and he reddened a little. It wasn't me, it was all Tinker's fault, he spluttered out. Bob was intrigued, but he was still none the wiser. What did he do? Bob said, getting exasperated. He stole a golf ball, said Charlie quietly. A golf ball, said Bob, and he sent a mouthful of hot tea onto the already stained once white rug. Now look what you made me do, he said in mock horror. He took another sip of his very sweet tea and very black tea. I know that they take their little game of golf seriously, but why would they be so upset about a little old golf ball? I'm sure they've got plenty of them in their bags, he said, shaking his head. Charlie spoke without thinking. It wasn't an ordinary golf ball, it was a golden golf ball. This made Bob laugh louder than he'd ever done before. A golden golf ball, he said. I've heard everything now, he said, smiling and revealing a row of fillings. It is gold, I promise, said Charlie, and it rolled right in front of us like a present from above, and Tinker couldn't resist. It was as if he was mesmerized, he added, wide-eyed. Bob was still chuckling. A golden golf ball, he said. It must be worth millions. Make no wonder silly snobs run after it, he said. Charlie was amused and he found himself laughing despite his efforts. Maybe Bob isn't so bad after all, he thought. Charlie composed himself. I'm not daft enough to think that it was made of solid gold, but it was definitely painted golden colour, and it looked beautiful, he said, without embarrassment. I believe you, said Bud, as he finished his tea, and he wiped his mouth with his too big dusty jumper. Lovely brew that, he said. Moses. At that moment there was a loud knocking on the door, and Bob had a good idea who it could be. Charlie quickly hid in the toilet. He said, It's the golfers. He spat out with contempt. When he knew that Charlie was safe out of the way, he gingerly opened the door.